Then you give them attention and they grow. All the small changes grow like flower. The flowers are opening to the sun, to the light of the sun. So, what should we do? What practices can we adopt in order to be in such a receptive mind and not rejecting, inquiring mind, receptive? So what we have to do is look for the patterns of those things that affect us. If something happens, somebody said something, and you feel a little bit of insult or a little bit of disappointment. Not something big, not a big drama, but a little bit, a pinch of sadness or loneliness or whatever. Then you are affected. You remember? Where you want to be is in the causal realm, where the causes are, not the effects. But in order to understand the cause, you have to be very clear and to identifying in the right time the effects that affects you. This is the lower end of the rope to climb your way into the causal realms of creation. So look at the patterns. When you are affected, ask about the cause and try to understand the cause and effect relationships that drive them to learn principles for dealing with them effectively. People who are in this condition, they are looking to find the patterns of the things that affects them, and from the effect, from the result, from the experience, you don't deal with the experience itself. Why is it happening to me? Why should it be like this? You are looking for the cause, and the cause is something inside you, not outside. Something inside you, which is usually in the unconscious mind. And now you had a rare opportunity to discover this part inside of you that was unconscious and to be conscious about it. It come to light so you can recognize it, acknowledge it, understand the causes, and change. Then the energy is released. And when the energy held by this particle of consciousness unknown release itself and feeds your livelihood and vitality. So you are energized. An energy that got you stuck somewhere emotionally or mentally is released, and you rise in consciousness to a higher energy dimension. So how shall we do it? There is the advice. Don't get hung up on your views of how things should be. Don't waste time thinking about the things should have been different than what they are. This is resistance. Identify the resistance. If you find yourself thinking in this manner, that things should have been different from what they are, identify it, see the pattern. The cause of that is resistance, rejection. So, rejection, of course, to what is. So, when you do that, you miss out learning how they really are, those things. And we talked about it, I think, in all the meetings about metacognition, the ability, the unique human ability to watch over his own thoughts, to watch over his own emotion, and to criticize them and to think that it should have been otherwise, should have been completely different. This metacognition is the separation of the one, the conscious mind, and the experience. And what happens is a very sad thing if you look at it, because if you have the experience and then you have the interpretation in your mind about the experience and you still know the difference, then it's okay. But what happens is that we forget that there is a difference, and what we are doing is thinking that the interpretation that we have on our mind is the experience. And then we lose contact with the experience. And when we lose contact with the experience, we lose contact with reality. And we don't know what was the experience all about. Every experience that we have is the result of light coming into our minds and into our emotions and into our energetic body. This is an emotion, a change in the state of the energy inside the body, or the reaction of the body to the thoughts that you have in your mind. So, what is disturbing us? What is bothering us to do this job? To see clearly what is, to accept what is, to stop running away in so many different ways from what is, building false, imaginary worlds to escape from the world as it is. The first barrier between us and seeing what is true, what is what we call ego. And I know this word is dangerous because ego, you just say ego and people have so many things, so many interpretations to the word ego. Some really don't like it, don't like their egos. But egos is part of the system. It has a function. We have to understand what is the function of the ego. And the function of the ego is a defense mechanism. What does it mean? Why do we need defense? This defense mechanism is, of course, a subliminal one, a subconscious one. You don't know about it. It's within the unconscious. You don't know about it, but it's working. And if you want to learn about yourself, to watch yourself and learn, you have to know that this structure is within you. It operates within you, whether you know about it and whether you ignore it completely, it is there. And it's good that it's there. You don't have to kill your ego. You have to understand the way it functions and restrict his activity to his functional role, and that's it. So it's a defense mechanism. What does he want to defend us from? Is to acknowledge our weaknesses and our mistakes. That's what he does. He makes it hard for us to accept our mistakes and weaknesses. And beside that, it is where the deepest seated or rooted needs and fears that we have resides. There we have the need to be loved and also the fear of losing love. There we have the need to survive and the fear of dying, of not surviving. There we have the need to be important, and we have the fear of being unimportant. So all this, one layer is the defense mechanism that doesn't want to allow your conscious mind to acknowledge mistakes and weaknesses. And even deeper than that, desire and fear that feeds one another. In the end, desire leads to fear, and fear leads to desire. If you fear of losing, you have a fear of losing someone, then your desire towards this someone or controlling this someone increases. So this is what the ego is doing, and of course it's within what is called the amygdala, the primitive parts of the brain. And the job of these parts of the brain is to process emotions. And we can't process emotions in the ego. The ego is the defense mechanism that doesn't let us acknowledge the true causes of what we feel, of our emotions. Because most of the emotions are the result of the mistakes that we made, or we think that we're making these mistakes. We just think about it. It's enough. You don't have to really do a mistake. Just think that you have. And hiding our weaknesses. So if you can't acknowledge your mistakes, how can you grow? How can you develop? If you don't know the places of your weaknesses, how can you work in order to get stronger? So this is one barrier, the ego. If that is not enough, we have another mechanism, which is the blind spot. And what is the blind spot? I will tell you about, there was a deaf man who couldn't hear. And he was in a wedding. And people started to leave the tables. First, he was, it has a great food. He was sitting at the table with all the others. And they ate and they enjoyed, and he enjoyed himself. It was a good meal. But then everybody leaves the table. And when he turns to look where they are, he sees them, these so-called sane people, jumping and making strange movements. And he said, what is happening to these people? They are crazy? I was sitting at the table, they looked fine to me. What is happening to them now? I cannot understand what they are doing. Why he cannot understand what they are doing? Because he's deaf. He cannot hear the music. He has this blind spot. He doesn't see the music, so he doesn't know how to interpret the behavior that he see with the people that are reacting, dancing to the music. And many times when we look at another, this is what is happening. We don't have the capability to understand what makes them tick, what moves them, because sometimes we are blind to that. We cannot hear the same music, the same frequency that these people hears. So they burst in tears. I don't know, you go to the beach, you go to the forest, and they burst in tears, so excited, and you look to the left, you look to the right. What is happening with this person? Well, what is happening that he sees things that you don't. And he interprets things the way that you don't. So he's standing right shoulder to shoulder with you, but his consciousness is in another dimension. Sometimes it's like with dogs, you know, they see different, they hear different than us. But even within the humankind, there are things that some people see or feel, and some people can't. So if we want to learn from other people instead just looking like they're out of their minds, if we want to learn from such people, we have to understand that when we see someone acting and we don't know why, it's a good opportunity to see my blind spot. My blind spot, what can I or can't I see? And can I train myself to see it? Can I become enlightened in this perspective?